Well, good morning, everybody. I'm in Minsk still, as I usually am. And it's a snowy, wintry wonderland. It's the 5th of December, 2023, and a lot of things going on, some crazy stuff. But it's all kind of in the background, so you're not hearing about that, even though there's crazy stuff going on anyway all over. As you all know, the world is just a crazy place now. But what I want to talk about, this is some very striking information. It is apparent. If you've heard anything lately from Seymore Hersh in the past while, so this is going to lend credence to Seymore Hersh. I should first apologize for my look. I don't have that much time today, and my hair was a little bit still wet, and I didn't want to, do anything looking weird with it. You put a hat on after that, and looks all, I don't know. I guess I'm vain. So let's get into some news here. What's really going on in the world? And I'll probably end up reading a lot of this because I don't really want to miss anything. Some really important stuff. I don't want to put out any facts or miss any facts and put out any facts that are not quite as accurate as I said they should be. Okay, it seems Seymore Hersh was right. He has been saying for a few weeks that there are negotiations going on behind closed doors between Russia and Ukraine. Oh, you can't see some things. The snow here, I almost tripped. Okay. And between Russia and Ukraine, questionable too. So we'll get into that. It is now being admitted everywhere that Ukraine has lost. Actually, Ukraine lost a long time ago. A lot of us have been reporting that. And you hear a lot of this stuff from the United States, European Union and all that, and I think it's mostly just wishful thinking. I don't really know if anybody really believed that they were winning. And of course, Zelensky kept on saying they're winning to get more money. So, anyway, and let's see, along with that, let me say, more money. Zelensky just recently is now been estimated to have $10 billion. I think that makes him maybe the richest person in Europe, or one of them. I remember just like a little over a year ago, he was right around Donald Trump, and then sometime after that, he had double the fortune that Donald Trump had, and now they put him at 10 billion. So it makes you really wonder what this guy, he runs around in a green t-shirt. His wife wants him not to be the leader anymore. Wants him to basically serve out his term, but as you know, he has an endless term. His term is, well, he canceled elections, so, and they say that the next elections will be at the very earliest 6 months after the hostilities start. So I don't know if is Zelensky going to stick around. But he's been thrown under the bus. That's another story by just about everybody. Apparently in the West, everybody's talking in secret about that. Klitschko, mayor of Kiev, has said that he's turned into authoritarian. I mentioned that on our podcast show, and that was on Sunday. We're going to be talking more about this tomorrow, Wednesday. So you'll have to join us on From the Other Side. But I'll get into what I was going to talk about now. So, like I said, Ukraine actually lost this conflict before it even started. So it's becoming more apparent as time goes by. Even Lindsey Graham, if you saw something from Lindsey Graham, you know Lindsey Graham, the guy that said the best money ever spent is Ukraine, to kill Russians and things like that. And for as long as it takes, for whatever it takes, to the last Ukrainian. And now he's saying, I'm not going to approve of any money going to Ukraine while we have problems going on in America. So now he's starting to sound like a real politician rather than a warmonger. But Lindsey Graham, I guess he is what he is, a politician, They say whatever seems to be popular at the time, even though war wasn't even really that popular at that time when he said to give everything to Ukraine, the best money ever spent. So, yes, and although Seymore Hersh was stating that the negotiations are between Ukraine and Russia, we know that NATO, which means the United States, are the actual negotiators across from Russia, or are they? Yes or no? In some ways, yes. The United States has stopped sending all this money to Ukraine. Like I said in the podcast, at least it used to be about every 10 days to 2 weeks, so they were sending $350 million plus the regular, maybe every quarter, $5 billion And a lot of this is money to pay wages and retirement things. Maybe a lot of the government workers keep things going. But of course, as you know, that's Ukraine. And the majority of that went into some pockets. And as a matter of fact, there was just a video coming out in Warsaw, Poland, people filming in some sort of place where they put Ukrainians, where they're housing a lot of them. They have apartments, and the whole basement is filled with Lexus and Mercedes and all high-end cars. So that's just a side note. But any of you that are watching my channel first know that the United States is actually abandoning Zelensky. So maybe it is giving the Ukrainians, Zelensky, impetus to do these deals. Maybe is the United States behind him, pushing him to make these deals, to negotiate with Russia or not? And what is going to be contained in this is there's a lot of different guesses. I'll be talking about that myself on our podcast tomorrow night, which will be aired at 8 p.m. Minsk time, 8 till 10, so it's a 2-hour program. We had a little bit of problems like with YouTube. I think we were talking about the wrong things. YouTube cut us off and we had to get that feedback. But it was on Rumble and all the other feeds, Twitter and things like that. So if you don't want it to be interrupted again, maybe you'll want to tune into one of those stations rather than YouTube. But otherwise on YouTube, when you get cut off, you're going to have to maybe wait 5 minutes. They're probably going to cut us off again when we're talking about things. I think I mentioned Gorgeous George Soros and his son maybe, and that's probably what got us cut off. So anyhow, who is behind this making or getting Ukraine to negotiate? And as you know, Ukraine is controlled by Nazis, corrupt Nazis that are also money junkies. And I don't know, as you know, I don't know what their impetus is. And as you know, they don't really care about any other human life except for their own, of course. So they don't care how many people they send into the meat grinder, as a lot of politicians are. A lot of people have this Nazism in them nowadays, and they don't really care about any other human lives but themselves and their comfort and their privilege. You all know that. So as the money is drying up, and Ukraine was never able to come up with a win except for small territorial gains in the fall of 2022. And now the U.S. is focusing on Israel and its ethnic cleansing, as you see. Здравствуйте. Not very friendly guy, huh? Normally the older people are the ones that say hello. Well, actually the young ones do too. A lot of polite people in Belarus. That guy, maybe he heard English from a hippie looking, yes, probably my hair. He probably thinks I'm some gay guy. I don't know the old people. About 70 some years old. So the U.S. is focusing on Israel. They're helping them out with their ethnic cleansing. And there's a big story probably behind all that too when you talk about the big money and the corporations and things. So the biggest losers in all of this has been all that died on both sides, to include Russians, not just the Ukrainians. Just the numbers are higher with Ukrainians, but as you know, Ukraine has been using the cluster bombs from the United States, the banned cluster bombs that are illegal from the rule of law country of America, the shining example for all of us. So, and then of course Russia has employed some as well, and that's really doing some devastation, but I don't think they're using it on the scale that the U.S., well, Ukraine, meaning the U.S., is using it. So, and the second place of losers could be the benefactors of the U.S. fascist system, which is a fascist system. When you know the original definition of fascism, as I have to keep saying normally every kind of transmission that I make, it's the marriage of corporate money to government power. And as you know, Monsanto, BlackRock especially, Pfizer, can I say this stuff? If this is going to go on YouTube, it might get deleted. There's Cargill, Monsanto, and there's many other, of course, I don't know all of them. You can even go down to Rosemont Seneca, which was one of the Biden investment groups, for the, let's just say, research laboratories in Ukraine. And now a lot of them have moved out, and as you all know, probably a lot of them have gone to Africa. And there's some in Kazakhstan, and there's even still a lot in China. So what they're doing there, I don't even know if these governments know what these American laboratories are doing in those countries. They're trying to save humanity, as you know. And certainly there's hundreds of millions invested in this. And I also mentioned, and we mentioned it on our, I think, no, it was Dave that mentioned it. He brought it up. It was about this deal between the son of Gorgeous George, Alexander Soros, and they have been making a deal with Ukraine for 400 square kilometers of a toxic waste dump inside of Ukraine, to take all kinds of toxic waste and dump it there. And of course, Ukraine is doing it for money. I don't think anybody would want anybody that cared about their country would not want their country to be a toxic waste dump. You know, remember, it goes into the groundwater eventually. And of course, like I said, they've invested hundreds of millions, if not maybe into the billions, of buying much of Ukraine. Do you think that Russia, if Russia is able, that they will allow this to stand? You know, all these it's a lot of people say that most of Ukraine is owned by BlackRock. You know, the present government there sold everything to get money. You know how money is important. I wonder if I tell you what, that's a good way to become the richest man in Europe, to get $10 billion, is to be selling your country. But that's another story, though. So on the one hand, and I tell you what, this is important to consider as well. As you know, that Ukraine was refusing to do any sort of negotiations with Russia. They did, you know, it was out completely. And consider this, the negotiations are taking place at the insistence of these multinational companies. They control most of the actions of the US government, as you all know. Even a lot of the banks, you know, you got to mention the banks in this. Look at Mike Rivero's famous, I think he has it on YouTube, All Wars Are Bankers' Wars. You have to see that video, and you'll be very much shocked. So a lot of these banks, especially like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and there's Citigroup and Bank of America, they're all involved in funding a lot of these things, and they fund the wars, as you know. And you know this, a lot of you out there anyway. And who do they, you know what, where does this money go? It goes to the politicians. You know, so their big donors are all the rich people. Do you think the little people have the money? Do you think these politicians are going to do what the little people want? Not necessarily. You know, it's not a very easy thing to do. I wouldn't want to be a politician. So they have to do what benefits their donors. And at least in the West, not so much here, of course. But I don't know that, see, this deal, I think that's just in the beginning stages, is 400 kilometers of a toxic waste dump. So I don't know if Russia's going to allow that. I mean, even if there's some sort of a deal going on between Russia and a lot of these multinationals, in order to bring a peace about, because I don't know about the governments wanting to do this, because they're at the behest of their donors, of course. Здравствуйте. Snow shovelers, obviously taking a break. They got this place cleared out. And where was I at? Yeah, so I don't know. Vladimir Putin over the years was able to kick out a lot of these NGOs and a lot of these corporations that owned a large portion of Russia over a period of time. And a lot of these people with this boycott and all of this sanctions and all that, a lot of them pulled out willingly. So that actually helped Russia to become a lot more independent, was this special military operation and these people. And they're stomping their feet, I guess, what do they say in Britain, throwing their toys against the tram and throwing a temper tantrum. So now they're out, Russia taken over, and Russia's going in through a boom right now, a tremendous boom, and to a large extent here in Belarus. And actually the GDP in Belarus has actually gone up more than the GDP, I guess maybe it was the last quarter of the last year. I think it's 3.5%. Russia was like 2.5%. Germany is going in minus. The United States, I believe, is in minus. At least the ratings from Moody's and a lot of things are credit ratings. They're in minus in the United States. A lot of people are kind of bailing out. Gold, as you know, when the dollar goes up, gold goes down and sort of things like that. And gold and Bitcoin are kind of mirroring each other because people use that as a safe haven when the dollar is going down. And I wouldn't even know why anybody would put their money into dollars that much, really, as a safe haven anyway. So they said gold is at historic highs. I don't think it's at historic highs, but it's very high. And Bitcoin, I guess, is up too. So just to let you know, I'm not into finance so much. I know only very little. And since Seymore Hersh has called this one accurately, because you see all the indications going on right now that this is actually true. And a lot of people haven't, at least the last that I read, a lot of people haven't yet latched onto this. And I'm going mostly by my own senses and my nose and everything, saying that this is all true about these negotiations. And it could be scuttled. It could be scuttled anyway, because they might not reach an agreement, because Russia should be the ones dictating the terms. And the West is always used to dictating all the terms all the time, no matter what. And as you saw during all this entire conflict, Ukraine was trying to dictate the terms as if they're the winners, they're ahead. And it was really ridiculous, as you all know. So, but anyway, with Seymore Hersh, it tells you that it's probably accurate what he said about Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2, which I'm pretty sure it is anyway. And part of what people are saying, and a lot of Lukashenko, the president of this country, Belarus, he was in Dubai just days ago, and then right after that he went to China, right away after that, which I don't know if it has any significance in Ukraine or not, but a lot of people are saying that he went to Dubai to deliver Russia's terms to the opposing side, or at least to NATO people there. And there was a photo, as you know. It was supposed to be all these nations, and I think maybe this had something to do with it. It was, I'm not sure if it wasn't Estonia. I think it was Latvia and Lithuania. They refused to be in the photo because Lukashenko was in the photo. And it's like childish, as you know. They just stomp in their feet and say, "I'm not going to be in the picture with him in the picture, Daddy." So that's very possible. And it might be because of these terms, and they realize that Russia can dictate the terms. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Maybe the terms were supposed to be passed off, maybe to these two countries. And, they're stomping their feet. I'm just guessing. Anything is possible. And, of course, the big thing is what is Ukraine going to look like after all of this? Because I tell you what, I'm going with the fact that this should be true. So we'll find out. Maybe I'm just jumping to conclusions because, like I said, it's a kind of a small piece of news right now to a lot of people, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. And we'll see in the next days, maybe. Who knows? Maybe a lot of this will not be announced officially, but you'll just see, and they'll act as if certain other people are bringing a piece about from other reasons. I don't know. It's just going to be interesting. So thanks for joining me, and make sure you join us on Wednesday. It's going to be 8 o'clock Minsk time, and it'll be on From the Other Side. That's the channel. I think it's From the Other Side BY on YouTube. Once again, thank you, and bye-bye.